Welcome to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Have you ever felt lost in your own life or struggled to feel like you're enough? Today, we're going to explore how to step into our personal power and become the leaders of our own lives. We'll also discuss what happens when we outgrow relationships and how we can prioritize ourselves without feeling guilty. I'm joined by Kiran Mann, CEO of Consolidated Group of Brars and Chief Happiness Officer at M2M Business Solutions Inc. She'll share the inspiring story of LeadHer and bring its mission to life, helping you lead yourself with confidence, clarity, and courage. Kieran, welcome to Empowered. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. This is a pleasure to be here and spend some time with you.
Oh, I'm just as thrilled. Let's begin. What inspired you to create Lead Her, and what does the brand mean to you?
So, Lead Her was born out of completely my personal realization, one that I think many women will resonate with. I was leading everything and I felt except for myself. And I was checking every box of success, but inside I felt disconnected, like I was performing, not rather living it. And so, Lead Her is about reclaiming that connection. It's a movement that reminds me, and I'm hope for every other woman that is listening to this, that they're not here just to survive success, but they're here to thrive in it, and with clarity, with courage, and with alignment.
I like that. I like the fact that you talked about thriving and you talked about, feeling a little bit off. Have you ever felt lost in your life? Like really, really lost? And how did you lead yourself back to where you are now?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that is something we never, ever, I personally believe that's not something you will ever achieve. It's always a growing space. It's you becoming all the time. So there was a time when I thought that I looked very strong on the outside, but quietly inside was questioning myself. What is my purpose? What is my direction? Even what's my identity? And that's when leading myself back wasn't such dramatic change. It was about quiet and very consistent choices. I started listening to my inner voice to begin with, and from there, honoring my truth, letting go of what I thought I should be doing all the time. But I feel like it becomes like a self leadership path where you start listening to your heart and start following whatever it gives you the direction with.
I think we all go through that. I know I certainly have as well. And I think it's great that you're talking about it right now because it's one of those silent killers where we don't discuss it and we suffer silently and it actually it's debilitating. What's the biggest misconception about confidence that you want to break?
I think my full realization was that confidence comes after success. It's not. Confidence is built when we choose to show up. Even when it's messy, even when we're unsure, it's a muscle, not a trait. And you strengthen it by honoring your voice, taking aligned actions, and refusing to abandon yourself. And I think no better than today's example where we plan to record this and be come together and nothing went perfect. I was supposed to be meeting you in the studio. Then we said, okay, let's do it. The weather is bad. Let's just sit up in our offices. I had no power, no electricity, no Zoom facility. I literally had to grab my stuff and, hop into a car and get to my friend's house to sit in a basement. So I'm like sitting in a space which is unknown to me, the lighting that I'm not aware, the background that I'm not used to. But it's these things that allow you to come out of your comfort zone and build that muscle of confidence that whatever you're doing, you're just showing up and doing it the way it makes you feel good in your heart.
And I'm glad that you brought that up because people can see I'm not sitting in my normal studio today. And Mother Nature was in charge, and you can't fight with Mother Nature. So instead of you driving 2 hours and me driving an hour and a half to get to the studio, the studio crew said safety first. And here we are, makeshift studios for both of us. But the point is, we still wanted to put together this television show, and we still wanted to get the message out there to everyone. And I think that's one of the most important messages that we can resonate with people right now. Like, we did everything we could to make this work. So please, ladies, don't go away. We will be right back with more. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's topic is Lead Her. Own your power boldly. Kiran, why do so many women struggle to feel enough? And how can they shift that?
I think because we have been conditioned to measure our worth by doing, by performance, by productivity, by perfection. But truth worth isn't earned, it's remembered. The shift begins when the woman asks herself, who am I without proving myself? And that gives herself the permission to be whole and not just be busy at all times.
Okay, so what's the first step to becoming the leader of your own life? Because a lot of women struggle with this. And I can tell you, I have a lot of conversations with girlfriends who are just trying to find themselves now.
I would say start with awareness. You can't lead when you don't acknowledge and accept where you are and what you're going through. And it starts with pausing long enough to ask, am I living in alignment? Or am I just going through the motion? I always call it, it's like a vicious cycle of fire. You're going in a circle and you just don't stop and pause and think and breathe and say, what am I going? Where am I going? What am I doing? And those are the questions we need to be aware of by pausing, by breathing, by asking ourselves those questions that we always shy away. So, from that place, I would say you can make very intentional shifts one at a time. And every bold life, it always starts with a small and a very honest question. Who am I and what do I want?
So what happens if you can't ask those questions, though?
Oh, that I had to do it. I would say it's a belief that you have to you have to do it all alone. I would say letting go of that change is not easy. And power isn't about isolation. It's about an alignment. And it is okay for us to know that we need support. We need help. And it's okay to rewrite the rules that we have lived all along and make new rules for ourselves. And we have to remember power comes when we stop performing and start being who we are.
Interesting. So, what's one belief you had to let go of to step into your power?
I would say confidence, because you have to start small. Confidence is built through micro moments of integrity. When you keep promise to yourself, even the tiny ones, when you show yourself, I can trust me, I can trust and you don't need to take giant leaps, just one step, one alignment, and step at one time at a day.
So, why do women hesitate to ask for what they really like or even or really want or even ask for help?
Oh, because we feel that as a woman, you always have to be perfect.
Yeah, there's
We
no such
feel
thing. There's
Yeah.
no such thing.
I think as women, we always think the whole world is running on my shoulder. And I really, really need to do everything and make everybody happy. I think we as women have that DNA in ourselves as givers. So we got to make sure everything is working fine, whether it's family, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your partners, whether it's your work, it's your friends. You want to just make everybody happy. And we also many times are people pleasers, and we want to make sure everybody is okay with us. And for that, we go outside the box to different lengths to make things perfect instead of stopping and saying, am I okay? If I'm not okay, it's something I learned actually from my 15-year-old who said it when she was 8. She saw me tired, exhausted one day, and she looked at me. She was like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, Ikam, I'm really tired today. I'm really tired. It's one of those days. And she said, remember when you take me in the plane and the air hostess first says, you have to put the mask on yourself before you do the same to your baby? She's like, if you're not taking care of yourself, how are you going to take care of me? I think that was my turning point since then, to be able to take care of myself. If I'm not doing it, I'm not being mean. I am doing it so that I can do it for the others later.
But you know what? That's a really good point because if you are pleasing everyone, the only person that isn't pleased is yourself. You
Yes.
get left behind. And I think it's really important as women. We need to plan me days. We need to plan us days, whether it's hanging out by yourself, reading a book, hanging out with a girlfriend, having a glass of wine and just laughing, going for a walk with somebody. We really need that to bring us back down to reality so that we can enjoy every day and every moment. So when we come back from the commercial break, we will be speaking to Kiran Mann a little bit more about taking care of ourselves. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's topic is Lead Her. Own your power boldly. Karen, before we went to break, you were talking about your daughter and her words of wisdom. I love it out of the mouths of babes, right? I love it when they listen and pay attention. And when you're at your lowest, they basically tell you your wisdom back at you and help you resurface and for breath.
Yes, yes. So I think it was about 6, 7 years ago when I hit the rock bottom, and that's when Lead Her in a way originated. Because when I hit the rock bottom and I was very upset and was like, where am I? What am I doing? I'm so successful outside, but I feel shaken, broken inside. I didn't know if I was moving on the right path, if I was surrounded by right people, if I was doing right things every single day. And at that moment, my one of my daughter came and said, "Mom, do you need to just hear what you have taught us?" And I'm like, "What is that?" And she said, "You always say when you hit rock bottom, there's no way to go but to go up. So if you feel you're at the rock bottom, you're only gonna go up. You just have to believe in your own words." And sometimes it's these things which we hear from our loved ones, from our friends or our inner circle. We know about them, but at some moment it doesn't come in our mind, and we just have to hear out loud for us to pick it up and rise again.
We do. We need those little reminders in life.
Yes.
No matter how simple they are, no matter how we know it, we still need those reminders to keep us going. So let's hold on. I want to talk about how do you stay true to yourself when people judge you or just misunderstand you?
So it's an amazing question. And I think it took me more than a year to practice that one. It brings so many self-doubt, so many questions to yourself because we're born people pleaser. That's in our women DNA. So I would say by remembering that other people's opinion are just based through their lenses. What they say is what they are seeing through their lenses. That is not your truth. So I stay grounded by knowing who I am. I remind myself I am this and I'm not this. So it doesn't matter what people are saying because I in myself know who I am. So not everyone will understand that you're growing, that you're becoming, that you're evolving. And as you're moving ahead, you're shifting away from the people that you probably resonated a lot. And as you're shifting, they're going to question you. And they're going to say the things that you may not like. And you're going to start questioning your evolution. So, staying true to yourself, asking who you are, and staying grounded to that, that you're not here to be understood by people and by everyone, but you are here to be authentic, to live authentically.
I love that. Let's move on. You talk about growth. What happens when you outgrow a relationship? And why is that a good thing? Because some people will mourn it.
I did. I did. So I think for years I always thought when I was losing somebody or I was connected so well with someone and at some point I wasn't, then maybe there was something wrong in me. Maybe I was becoming materialistic or I was changing so much that I am not able to resonate and fit with that person or with that personality or that relationship. And then time came, more I connected with myself. I learned, no, it's actually a good thing. Because if I'm shifting, that means I'm evolving. If I'm evolving, that means I'm becoming. So outgrowing doesn't mean that you're better. You have to always remember that as well. It just means you're different, or you're changing, or you're evolving, and different will require different alignment in your time. So sometimes the most loving thing that you can do is release those relationships that no longer resonate with you, that no longer serve you, and that no longer reflect who you are becoming. And that is true growth.
And I think that's really important because there are so many women that want to hang on to broken relationships, want to hang on to abusive relationships, want to hang on to these relationships because there's the fear of moving on and the fear of the unknown. And I think what you just said is really, really important because we need to move on and we need to evolve from within.
Yes. And it's very important to know that you're not being rude. You're not being ignorant to other people's feeling and their thought process. It's just that you are shifting. And if that person is not shifting in the same space, or at least in the same, I would say, wavelength or spectrum, then you're drifting away. And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong in that person stagnating or not growing as fast. There's nothing wrong with you growing fast.
Hold that thought, Karen. Hold that thought. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's topic is Lead Her, Own Your Power Boldly. And I'm joined by Kiran Mann. She's the Chief Executive Officer of Consolidated Group of Brars. She's also the Chief Happiness Officer at M2M Business Solutions Inc. Kiran, before we went to commercial break, you were so passionate and you were talking about there's nothing wrong with shifting. So please continue.
What I was saying is that there is nothing wrong with you shifting and the other person in the relationship not shifting. Everybody's on their own journey. So some may like the status quo. They're happy and content with that. And there's other people that want to move, explore, curious, create, imagine, right? So as long as if you're moving together, perfect. You're within the spectrum of plus and minus. But if you start moving and the other person is not, you're going to get at some point outside that spectrum. And now you're going to have differences. There's nothing wrong with either of them. You just have to accept, acknowledge, move on.
And I want to move on, but you need confidence to move on. And this is a question that keeps coming up over and over and over again. How do you build self-confidence when your self-belief feels a little bit broken?
I would say you start small, one step at a time, right? I learned that from my mom when I was younger. She always say, when you take one step, God takes nine. And I have applied that. I never try to question how much is true, how much is not, but my belief has worked. So I all believe in taking one step. Confidence is built through micro moments of integrity, right? So when you keep promises to yourself, even they're tiny ones, when you show up for yourself, I can trust me, I trust myself. You don't need to take any giant leaps. All you need to do is stay aligned one day, one step at a time.
I love that. So what's one powerful habit every woman should build today?
I would say habit of checking in with herself every single day. Not her to-do list, not her inbox, just herself. Asking yourself, what do I need today? What's true for me today? Well, that habit alone can shift everything. And I think many of us talk about gratitude. We talk about meditations. You can pick whichever works for you. It could be yoga. All you're doing is closing your eyes and, getting to know yourself, connecting with yourself, asking questions to yourself. And that allows you to build confidence. It allows you to build a powerful habit that takes you to the journey that you want to go to.
So how can ambitious women prioritize themselves without guilt? Because guilt is huge.
Yes. I would say by realizing that prioritization isn't neglecting others, right? It's honoring your wholeness. When you thrive, everything that you're leading is going to thrive. And guilt can fade when you understand that your well being is not optional, it's essential. And it goes with my youngest one's example that when you're taking care of yourself, that is only when you will be able to take care of others around you. So we have to remind ourselves we're not being mean by doing it. It's part of the journey. You have to be healthy to take care of other people's health. You have to be healthy to be able to work and run your house. You have to be healthy to be happy so that you can spread happiness. So it's combined. It's not, they're not two alone things.
Those are great words of wisdom. Before we go, we've got about 30 seconds left. If a woman listening right now and is watching this episode and she's feeling stuck, doesn't know where to turn to, what is her first step?
Give yourself permission to pause, because when you give yourself permission to pause, the clarity that doesn't come from pausing, it comes from presence. And when you pause, you go in your presence. Just breathe, reflect, ask, what do I really want now? What do I really want today? And that's not indulgence. That is the true leadership.
Thank you so much, Kiran.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Kiran says, Queen, leadership doesn't begin in boardrooms. It begins within you. When you lead yourself with courage and clarity, you don't just change your life, you inspire every woman watching you to rise too. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski, and I'm here to empower you and make frugality fashionable. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.